time she got us arrested. Or as insane as she was, like a time she almost got us in a big bar fight, as insane as she was, there's a shoplifting thing. But there was also things about her that I just had to keep seeing her. We won't go into those right now. Some of them are against the FCC regulations. But even though she was insane and crazy and nuts, and there was times like I can't ever see her ever again because, oh my God, she's going to get me killed. Or, oh my God, this is nuts. Or, oh my God, what am I doing? Yeah, I went back because there was things about her that I had to go back. And that's kind of what college football is. All the stuff between Sunday and Friday is just mind-numbing. Makes your head explode. But we watch. So college football is getting what they want today. They got what they want yesterday. They did that show before kickoffs on Sunday, on an NFL Sunday. And people were talking about the College Football Playoff Committee's choices. And again, you don't beat the NFL because no one beats the NFL. But you got a chance to be in the conversation in the area that the NFL owns. And that's really what you want if you're college football. If you did this to make it make sense, like I want it to, if I'm talking about what's fair and objective, I want a combination of, first of all, I want the really smart people who deep dive into the numbers of college football and come up with efficiency rankings and all these other things that make sense, like the Billy Connellys of ESPN and those folks, get together, shut them in a room, lock the door, put chairs up against it, come up with a formula. A formula that makes sense. Now we rank and rate these teams. And let us know the criteria. How much does strength of schedule matter? Head-to-head matter? Wins over top 25 teams? Non-conference schedule, which I think is so underrated. How much does that matter? How much is this and that and that and this and whatever? Does it matter more to what your record is in November than in August or September? Whatever you want to build as your formula, come up with a formula. Take the polls, put the polls in with the formula, and that's how you get the college football playoff teams. Something like that. But you know what? That's boring. Because it might be efficient. It might be the most efficient way to do this and the most fair and logical way. But you know what efficiency is sometimes? Boring. That crazy girl I'm telling you about from back in the day when I had hair, she was not efficient. There was nothing efficient and logical about her. And that's why I dug her. There's so many, we don't like to admit it, but there's some things in life we don't want to be efficient. And the world of college football does not want efficiency. They don't want logic. They want this mess, this beautiful, crazy, wonderful mess that we see every year that we can't stop watching and talking about. So once again, college football wins because, we're all going insane in some way, shape, or form about the college football playoff. Who deserves this? Who doesn't deserve that? Who should go? Who should stay? What the hell have we got these group of 5 schools? They're all going to get curb stomped anyway. Let them have their own championships. You know what? ESPN did this. They screwed Notre Dame because Notre Dame's not part of their contract like the ACC and the SEC is. This is ESPN. Those devils in Bristol. They did this. Disney did this. That bleeping Mickey Mouse. We're on that path now, I've heard. So this is what we see in front of us today. A beautiful, wonderful, illogical, mind-numbingly annoying mess that we just can't get enough of. Like that girl. Thank God I moved. Probably still be in jail. But it's just the idea that that's what college football wants. That's why it's never going to be, in my opinion, ever efficient and logical in this process. Never will be. Because then we won't sit and... You can't yell at a computer. It's no fun. It doesn't yell back. You can break it, but you can't yell at it. Because it's going to have an efficient process to get to its solution, and it's going to drive you crazy. You can disagree with how the process was put together, but you can't argue with the computer. You can argue with the people who put it together, but they're not going to listen to you anyway. And you're not going to get the AD of Arkansas every time he talks. You go, wow, you're an athletic director? Seriously? Really? You got blackmail pictures or something, bro? Wow. Okay. But so it's just the idea that we love the beautiful mess. And we got a beautiful mess. We do. And look, for me, again, I look at it like this. I've been saying this for weeks, and I think the Miami win head-to-head over Notre Dame should matter. Their metrics are all close together, and the metrics that we look at, or supposed to look at, Notre Dame and Miami are pretty much around the same when it comes to ranking. So that head-to-head has to matter. And Miami beat Notre Dame head-to-head. I don't care if it was in August. I don't care if it was in July. I don't care when it was. It's part of the body of work of a season. And you can't sit and say, well, Notre Dame's better than Miami now. Well, you think that, but you don't know it because guess what? They're not playing now. They played back in August, and when they did, Miami was just a little bit better. Do I personally think Notre Dame is better than Miami right now? Yeah, probably. Do I think Notre Dame's better than Alabama right now? Yeah. Alabama does not look good at all. But none of that matters what I think. It's what we have. What evidence do we have? What do we see? And the evidence is Alabama has 4 top 25 wins earlier this year. And from what I've been told, you're being judged on your entire season, not just the month of November. Alabama did not look like a college football playoff team on Saturday. They haven't looked like a college football playoff team for a month. But their body of work before they kind of gone sideways, they stacked some wins that a lot of teams don't have. They have one of the best overall resumes. You can strength of schedule and strength of record and wins over quality opponents and all that other mumbo jumbo. Alabama looks really good, even though in November they didn't look really good. We can think all we want. Now I can tell you my opinion what I think of Alabama right now or Notre Dame or Miami, but you got to look at what's in front of you. The actual evidence. I know, what a crazy idea. Also, there's been a lot of smoke about these group of five. Two group of 5 schools in the college football playoff. This is stupid. Well, it wasn't built for this. This whole formula was built to get the champions from the SEC, the Big Ten, the Big 12, and the ACC. Well, the SEC and the Big Ten, the Big 12, they handled their business. And the ACC soiled themselves in public. And it smells bad. This is the ACC's fault. Don't get mad at the group of 5. Get mad at the ACC for not handling their business and their tiebreakers a mess and everything else. And there's other conferences whose tiebreakers are a mess too because your conferences are too big and bloated. But you do that because, money. But the ACC, they screwed this thing up. They did. They're really good. I mean, Miami lost a couple games they shouldn't have in conference. Guess what? That bit them. SMU had a chance. They went. Virginia got through this thing, and all of a sudden was in the ACC championship game. Everybody else stumbled and bumbled around. Clemson, heck, their season ended by the middle of October when it comes to the college football playoff. And all of a sudden, here comes Duke. Duke, who couldn't beat Tulane, who couldn't beat UConn. Duke wins the ACC. Duke basketball? No, Duke football. Think about that. A 5-loss team. So Duke screwed this. I mean, the ACC screwed this thing up. But so Duke, because they decided to win the ACC. So it's not James Madison's fault. Just to get one group of 5 team, that would have been Tulane. But Tulane, well, and they get to play Ole Miss again. And they got whooped last time by Ole Miss. I didn't like the matchup thing. So that's where we're at right now. This thing's a mess. It's crazy. It's off the rails, and we love every second of it, even though we're going to scream and yell and complain about it. And we'll see where it goes. And we're spending more of today yelling about what happened than actually looking at the matchups of these games because we feel like the first round is going to be, besides maybe, just maybe, the A&M Miami game. So anyway, we'll talk a lot more about this as we move through our little shindig today. We're going to yap with our buddy Jay Phillips here in just a little bit as well. He's going to pop on here, and we're going to get Jay's thoughts on the college football playoff. It's all coming up. Post-game show with Terry Ford. Appreciate you hanging out with us as we go up until 6 on the game.
Well, Reese, if you recall, Miami was a loser of 2 of 3 when they entered the poll at 18, and they were in close proximity to Louisville at the time, who I believe was below them in 21st or 22nd spot. And we didn't use the head-to-head metric to compare Miami and Louisville. Louisville, a team who had beat Miami, but not until they really got in close proximity, side by side, with the move with BYU, were we able to evaluate just those two teams side by side. We always had someone between them, whether it was previously Alabama and BYU, and then just BYU in the last week.
All right, I hope you wrote all that down. There'll be a quiz later. That is our boy Hunter, the AD at Arkansas and the chair of the College Football Playoff Committee, trying to explain why that head-to-head didn't matter until now. And if you're Notre Dame, you were ahead of Miami for how many straight weeks, Jay Phillips?
All of them. All of them. That's what's embarrassing. Yeah, that's what's embarrassing about this.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
The committee saying, well, we never really went head-to-head with them. No, you didn't. You just put Notre Dame way ahead of Miami the whole time, so you didn't even think they needed discussion. It's, look, I'm not here to defend or prop up Notre Dame per se, but the committee had them in front of Miami every ranking, and they said they did it because of what Notre Dame was doing on their resume, which, by the way, I think Notre Dame's 10 straight wins, pretty much all of them were double-digit wins, convincing wins. I think Notre Dame could win a national title. I don't think they're one of the best teams. They're not maybe a top 4, top 5, but quite honestly, Terry, I feel like if Notre Dame played Miami again, they'd be favored, especially on a neutral field, but it's more than anything, it just makes a farce of what this committee's doing every week. And so either drop the TV show on Tuesdays or stick to your guns and say, no, our committee felt all along Notre Dame was the better football team despite the head-to-head. But again, I told you last week, whatever it might be, courage. I don't think they have it. I just don't. But this is just, they're making a farce of the whole thing. By the way, how you doing?
I'm doing good. How you feeling? Are you doing okay?
Right.
I knew you were dying to do that. I talked to you earlier. It was just bubbling. You were dying to do it. You feel better now? You got that out?
A little bit. But I don't understand. That's why I say we need some way for the national college football writers, Andy Staples, and Stuart Mandel, and Heather Dinich, and all of them, to be able to either A, be in that room the whole time, or B, have some type of constant web stream so that interested parties can hear what's going on. Because otherwise, it's just a bunch of nonsense. And look, if you want to make the head-to-head matter, great. I don't have a problem with that. I know, Terry, you don't have a problem with that.
Nope.
I don't think most people have a problem with that. Then put Miami ahead of Notre Dame the whole time.
Yeah. And
what made you have Notre Dame at one point 6 or 7 spots in front of Miami, only to basically tell us, well, we were just kind of waiting for teams between the two of them to lose so that we could compare them.
Yeah, I know.
How dumb is that? How dumb is that?
Those and you know what? For weeks, their metrics were around. We've been talking about this for weeks. Their metrics weren't that different, but the biggest thing was your head-to-head. And then that committee kept, like blowing that off, right, until now. And look, that's my thing. Look, I think the head-to-head should have mattered from the get-go. And the idea that it's not so much if you got it right or wrong, because the committee, to me, it doesn't even matter about getting it right or wrong with Miami because of the head-to-head. It's what you did to get there. And the word farce, I think, is perfect with this thing. Is you put Notre Dame up ahead of Miami the entire time you had playoff rankings. And you almost act like the head-to-head didn't matter. Even though we all saw the metrics were pretty close, right? Then all of a sudden at the end. And then, here's the other part of this too, Jay. Week before, you all of a sudden out of nowhere popped Alabama up one because that win over 5-7 Auburn was so impressive. You popped Alabama up one, almost giving them a cushion just in case they get beat in the SEC championship game. And then you also moved Miami up between where you only had BYU in between Miami and Notre Dame, right?
Yeah.
So
And something about how Alabama went for it on a fourth down.
yes.
I'm like, wait, what? What?
But ready,
This is what.
Jay, the worst part of this, it's sad and funny at the same time. The worst part in this is you propped Alabama up for beating 5-7 Auburn, but you punished Vanderbilt for going on the road and beating a ranked team in their house and basically punching them in the lower extremities for the last 30 minutes. So you give Alabama love for beating a losing team, and you basically spit on Vanderbilt for beating a ranked team on the road. Help me with the logic there.
And then they also tell us, well, Tennessee's not ranked anymore. Well, no bleep, Sherlock, because Vanderbilt beat them again.
Right.
But you ranked them. You ranked Tennessee. Vanderbilt didn't rank Tennessee. You did.
But Jay, that fourth down by Alabama was magical.
Yeah.
It was magical.
No, it's just and I heard Pete Bavacqua, the AD at Notre Dame, on Dan Patrick this morning, and I think he made a great point. And again, this could apply to almost any school in the same situation, so it doesn't have to be specifically about Notre Dame. But he said, hey, for the last month, we were led to believe we were fine because of where our ranking was, because this committee, the same people, were putting us there. So again, it's just kind of a farce. And look, am I surprised? Look, Terry, let's go back to last year. You and I joked a lot, that somebody in Burbank, not Bristol, Burbank, said, wait a minute, you're putting Southern Methodist into the field over Alabama? That we think they deserved it. Now you're putting James Madison and Tulane, and by the way, you're having another Mississippi-Tulane rematch, a game in which Tulane was beaten by 35 points, but you're leaving Notre Dame out this time? Like, it just so is it about best? Is it about whatever? I don't even know what they're trying to do anymore. God bless you, Tulane. God bless you, James Madison. And Duke, way to do what you did. And, hey, Virginia, win the bleeping football game.
Right.
And a lot of this goes away. But I don't know what they're doing. And unfortunately, look, 16 won't solve the methodology. So if we go to 16 next season and for the foreseeable future, that's terrific. I'm for 16 schools going into this thing, but it's still going to be flawed if they come to decisions the way they did this week, where all of a sudden you decide to change your mind. And they can't say anything other than all of a sudden, because, again, Babak was right the whole time. Notre Dame was in front for whatever reasons.
Right. And, they have to, and you brought this up a second ago in your opening riff, they just have to stop having this committee doing a weekly TV show. If you want to get all the talking heads together, add some of the reporters and the analytic folks, and make up kind of like your own metrics and look at things where it's at and speculate and project, that's fine. But they should do this just like the NCAA basketball tournament. The committee only does the final vote. Don't do this dog and pony show anymore. You're making yourselves look like a bunch of morons. You just are.
And they keep saying it makes ESPN a lot of money. Does it? Is this something where Disney, like Bob Iger goes to the board every quarter and says, hey, by the way, that Tuesday night ranking show, big money for the Disney folks.
Hey, I tell you what, people are stumbling over each other to advertise on that, baby. It's must-see TV. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Hey, hang out. You got another segment in you?
I do.
All right. There might be an offensive coordinator hired during the break. Keep your phone out. We'll talk about it.
I've got the ready. Yep.
All right. Jay Phillips, Terry Ford, it's the postgame show. South Carolina might have an OC sometime this week. We'll talk about that coming back here on the game. Post-game show, Jay Phillips, Terry Ford, as we go till 6 on the game. Well, Jay, maybe we're close. Maybe we're really close, but hopefully sometime this week we will find out who the new offensive coordinator at South Carolina is. There's a leader right now in the clubhouse, not a done deal, but it feels like right now the leader is Kendall Briles at TCU. But there's others in the mix. Not like it's just Kendall Briles, but it feels like Kendall Briles is inched ahead.
It does, and based on some research I've been able to do, it certainly appears that the interest is mutual. I think we know that Jeremiah Donati and Shane Beamer have both been heavily involved in this. For those that may not know, Kendall was hired as OC on the staff at Texas Christian while Jeremiah was still the athletics director out in Fort Worth. So they have a direct relationship in terms of Jeremiah knowing all of Kendall's story. And let's not sugarcoat it, Terry. We know that there's a story there. Kendall is not his father, but certainly was around during the Baylor troubles. But I think most of that, look, we all know how that's been adjudicated in whatever way you want to look at it and however you may feel about it. And believe me, I've talked to people that still believe it was a bad thing, because it was. I think there are others who said, Kendall himself was not directly implicated in any of this. But, sometimes the sins of the father follow the son kind of a thing. I understand that too. I think Jeremiah, in terms of what Jeremiah has done, I think I don't know if that's a positive or not. Again, it's going to depend on a fan's point of view. But having Jeremiah Donati directly involved in the vetting of Kendall Briles at Texas Christian several, 4 or 5 years ago, whatever it was. I can't remember exactly, but I think it's good for Carolina in the sense that Jeremiah has already been through this. Nothing in the interim has changed in terms of what's going on with Kendall's specific professional, situation. So, in that respect, Jeremiah knows all of this and can help guide the process if that's what's going to be needed. And I imagine there probably will be some minds to change, or at least some feelings to smooth over if this hire happens.
Yeah, and look, because that is a thing, and it should be a thing because of what happened there. But like you said, Kendall Briles and whatever went on there with Kendall Briles wasn't what Art was up to, his dad, a whole different level of stuff. But still, he was vetted by Jeremiah Donati, and there will be questions answered because, it's just always going to be in some way, shape, or form when you are on a staff where that kind of stuff went on. It's just, that's life, right? You can't change that. But when you look at him and what he's done, his body of work, by the way, can I tell you something kind of interesting? And again, it doesn't mean anything. I got his Wikipedia page up right now. You know what it says? Kendall Briles is the offensive coordinator at South Carolina. Anyway,
Sure. Yeah,
I find that interesting. People can go on Wikipedia and do anything for a minute. Anyway, so I look at him, his time at Arkansas, Jay, because he truly was the OC. It was his baby. He wasn't working for his dad or, Lane Kiffin or Sonny Dykes. It was, or Major Applewhite. It was him running the offense at Arkansas. And like his last year there, Rocket Sanders ran for over 1,400 yards. KJ Jefferson hit 68% of his throws. Really good touchdown interception ratio. They had they were Burks, the wide receiver, ended up being a first-round pick by Tennessee. Of course, that didn't work out, but still, at Arkansas, he was a threat down the field. That offense at Arkansas was pretty good, is what I'm trying to say.
It was. And we know that Dow Loggins worked with him over there for a little bit and learned some things after coming in from the NFL, bringing some of that to Carolina. So there's been elements of it that have been incorporated into Carolina's offense already. And you have to separate these things at times. You can't just have it all together. Kendall has been very innovative. Art has been very innovative when it comes to offenses, and that's something South Carolina is looking for. So there's a proven track record there. And, again, from what I was able to gather earlier today, the interest is mutual. I think Kendall would like another opportunity in the Southeastern Conference. I don't know. Look, I don't know if he knows something we don't in terms of whether or not Lenoris is going to be back, Nick is going to be back, what kind of portal running backs they may be able to bring in to get this thing going a little bit more, what kind of say he'll have in an offensive line, both personnel and coach. So, but from, again, everything I could gather, the interest is mutual, and it feels like that's where they're going. I've also heard that Cade Bell of Pitt is at least another name to be thinking about. He's Kerwin Bell's son. He's done a nice job with the Panthers. Could be, I hate the term fallback, but for lack of a better term, I think we could use that if the Briles situation doesn't work out. But by all accounts, Terry, it certainly, you've already said it, Kendall Briles is the leader in the clubhouse at this point.
And just a quick thing, I was watching a little interesting video with Kendall Briles kind of talking about, his philosophy of being, offense and play calling and things. Just real quick, if someone doesn't, know a lot about Kendall Briles, loves tempo, all about tempo. They like the spacing like Tennessee does with the wide receivers out wide, to basically use the field vertically and horizontally. They do a lot of RPO stuff. Always trying to stress the defense to get one-on-one matchups, to get your playmakers an advantage, things of that nature. And he builds his offense around, you ready for this, Jay? The strength of his players.
No.
Crazy idea, sir.
Yes. So not the strength of the playbook.
Yeah, no, the strength of the players. It's an insane idea. So anyway, that's just a look.
Good.
Look, the offense, if Kendall Briles does come to South Carolina, the offense should have tempo to it. It'll be, a lot of fun to watch. You're going to see he wants explosive plays. We're always looking for explosives, things of that nature. It'll be an offense that has got some excitement and juice to it. That's the attempt, is what Kendall Briles has done on all of his stops.
Well, I think, look, Carolina needs something like that, whether it's Kendall coming in, whether it's somebody who's worked with him or run something similar. I don't know if fans are going to, look, at least some faction of fans will be like, I don't really care who it is. I just want him to score some points. I just want him to, not commit penalties up front. I want him to be able to block. I want him to be able to, again, utilize what has been some pretty good talent. So, the name and the resume are going to matter, but how much, again, you got to do something different, and certainly something different than this season, because if you thought it was bad before at times, and it was, this season was a regression, and certainly an unexpected one, but a regression nonetheless. And you've got, as we've talked about, there's a lot more on the line here with the entire program, but the good news is you just had a good recruiting class. I expect them to do well in the portal. How well, I don't know, in terms of national rankings. We'll see. But to go 4-8 and have a top 15 recruiting class is pretty good.
Yeah.
Get a name like this in and convince some guys to come be a part of it. Things could look up. We'll see.
Yeah, I mean, again, you're right. We'll see, because, look, it's great that, again, we can tell you what Kendall Briles has done in the past, this, that, or the other, the type of offense they run, and all that's great. And it would be nice to give the fan base some juice of hope, right, when you get a guy like that. But again, it's got to translate on the field, and you got to go score points. And that's really what this is about.
Yeah.
Your defense has been good enough over the years. Your special teams have been good enough. The Achilles heel to this program on the field has been consistency on offense. Hell, like you said, recruiting. You got top 15 class, you went 4-8.
Yeah. Yeah. And if Kendall or whomever can convince Lenoris to stay and convince Nick to stay, hey, more power to them, because that's another thing that fans are really going to want to be, here and be concerned about.
Absolutely. Hey, you going to hang around, or what do you got going on? You got important plans?
Yeah,
or do another
let's do it.
segment?
I'm here.
Well, all right, good deal.
We're at least out of the standstill traffic on I-20, so that's good. We're now making progress again.
Are you anywhere near 95?
No, we're probably still a half hour from there.
Oh, you got plenty of time to hang out on the radio.
Sure.
All right, man, we'll get back. We'll talk more about the world of college football. I got a great quote for you from a head coach. We're going to play Guess the Quote from the head coach next. Are you ready?
Beautiful.
We're going to do that next here on the post-game show. Jay Phillips, Terry Ford, till 6 on the game. Oh, post-game show. Jay Phillips, Terry Ford hanging out with you as we roll till 6. All right, Jay, ready? Here's the quote.
Yeah.
You tell me who this head coach is. College football. Did this coach's team consider opting out of a bowl game? No. We love playing football here. There was no way we were gonna end this story early. I get a chance to spend 23 days with this team. We're gonna soak up every one of those days.
BYU.
I'll tell you who it wasn't. Marcus Freeman, Notre Dame. Anyway,
it wasn't Marcus Freeman. Yeah.
Clark Lee, our boy at Vandy.
Oh, okay.
And
they're going to get a good bowl.
Yeah, and you know what? I wouldn't want this magical run to end either, would you? No, not at all.
No.
No way I would stop this train. No way if I was Clark Lee. I mean, obviously Notre Dame opted out. They're not happy with what went down. And look, I'll say this really quick. I understand why Notre Dame's hacked off. I'd be hacked off too if I was Notre Dame. Absolutely. And so, but let me ask you this. Should they be this hacked off to say, screw you, we're not going to a bowl game. We're just going to, go home and pout in the corner?
I'm torn on that one. I think for the players, you go do it, but I think at the same time, maybe Pete Pavakwa and Marcus Freeman want to make a statement. And let's face it, they are Notre Dame. They are a draw, and now they won't be. I don't think it's going to, it isn't going to, here again, I could come back to Disney's bottom line. It's not going to be the end of the world if Notre Dame isn't in a bowl game in terms of ad revenue for the Pop-Tarts Bowl. But at the same time, I think they're trying to make a point. How much of a point they make, how hard they hammer that home with other powers that be, I don't know. But again, as I said earlier, I get why Notre Dame's hacked off.
Yeah.
So if this is the way they feel they need to express that anger, then I'll be supportive of that. Again, for some of the players, might be nice to go play in in Florida after Christmas, but they're not going to get to.
That was my thing, was the players, Jay. So I kind of did a little digging around, and just some of the stuff I've read was that the players. I'm going to read this, make sure I get it right. The players, through their captains, decided not to play in a bowl game. Now, if the players didn't want to do it and they voted not to do it, and the majority of players didn't want to play, okay, fine, I get it. But if the players had no say in it, I thought that would be wrong in this case because, again, like you said, players only get X amount of years of eligibility, right? And bowl games are fun. You get to go be the king of the city for a week. You get a lot of merch. You get to hang around, have a good time, play in a game, whatever. And if the players, to me, wanted to do it, I think that the coaching staff and administration should have went forward. But the players voted not to play. So then I'm like, okay, good. If your players didn't want to do it, you as a coaching staff didn't want to do it, you as a school didn't want to do it, then screw it. Don't go. Yeah.
No, again, I'm supportive of their decision. I like I say, I'm torn a little bit personally, but again, man, you had them. I'll just come back to my original point. You had Notre Dame ranked ahead of Miami, sometimes several spots for over a month, and then you flip it at the last. It just, I'd be hacked off too.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. And I think the head-to-head should have mattered. Miami should have been in. Well, you and I have been saying this. I forgot how long you and I have been saying that's the way it should be. But to play Notre Dame the way they played them, that was like somebody telling you they're going to go to the dance with you all the whole time, waiting for the better-looking guy, and then at the last minute, dumping you for the other guy, and you're standing there, at your car.
Yeah.
You'll be a little hurt, man.
They did. Yeah, and they did play them. They did. They did. I think Notre Dame's gripe is legit. Some people may not. That's fine. There's a lot of Notre Dame haters across the United States. I get that part of it too. Already seen some of that today. Notre Dame's just, trying to act all big and bad. I don't know. Again, try to be empathetic here and put yourself in Notre Dame's shoes. How would you feel if this was your school? And I think everybody would be exactly how Notre Dame is today.
No, because, again, it's not so much the decision, it's how you did it that's wrong.
Correct. It's the methodology. That's what I say.
Right.
That's got to change.
Absolutely. But you know
That's
what?
got to change.
Here's the problem, Jay. I don't think they want to change it because what are you and I and a lot of people in this country doing today? What are we talking about?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, I know. Yeah. So, but they better be careful. Eventually that can run out.
Well, again, it seems like logic, common sense, and objectivity just goes to hell in this situation. You coming back for one more, or are we going to not see you till Wednesday?
I got one more in me before we maybe go back to Bucky.
All right. All right. Hour 2 coming up. Post-game show. Jay Phillips, Terry Ford. We go till 6 here on the game. Tomorrow, and this is going to be cool, Jay. You won't be around tomorrow. You may be able to see the video on social media or the internet. Guthrie's is opening up here in Columbia, and Elijah Campbell and Preston Thorne are going to have a chicken tender eating contest at Guthrie's.
That does sound fun. I will definitely find that on the internet. What time is this going to be?
Tomorrow between 4 and 6.
Okay.
Now, see,
I will do my best to log in and see if I can cheer or jeer.
Now, I will say this. You know, Preston played defensive line at South Carolina. So, you know, you figure Preston, a little bit bigger human being than Elijah, Preston would have an easy advantage on this thing. But you and I have watched Elijah Campbell eat.
Yes.
Elijah is sneaky, very sneaky in how much food he can put in his body.
I think this feels like a legit competition coming, man. So I'm here for it.
So that's tomorrow. They'll call in a couple times an hour here.
You're sure this will be? There will be cameras and
yes.
And a waiter. Okay, all right, good.
Yeah, I've checked with the program director. That's going to be videotaped. Yes, and put on social media on one of our platforms live. Yes,
I'm here for that.
Oh, I love what I'll tell you. I'll never forget when Elijah. We did the which show was it? And he ate all the wings. He had Quaker Steak and Lube, and he ate the super hot wings.
Yeah.
And remember,
he had to sign a waiver, man.
He had to sign the waiver, and he's eating it, and his eyes are watering, his nose is running in his face. Remember those mood rings when we were kids?
Yeah.
His face was like a mood ring.
Yeah.
But
good for him. I do remember that. And had I been younger, I might have done that too, but I'm not. So I didn't.
So anyway, that's tomorrow, 4 to 6, at the great opening of Guthrie's. All right, so a couple more things real quick I want to get to you about this college football playoff. And in regarding the Notre Dame thing, some of the stuff we see floating around in the world of social media. I'll throw you the conspiracy theory. You know it, but let's have a little conversation about it. Notre Dame was left out because Disney and ESPN have contracts with the ACC and the SEC that puts Miami and Bama in. Notre Dame has a contract with NBC, which is why Disney and ESPN wanted Notre Dame out.
Yeah, that's probably about as stupid a conspiracy theory as you could come up with, because it's Notre Dame. It's arguably the biggest national brand in college athletics, and for Disney to be able to have an exclusive opportunity to get Notre Dame on the airwaves in a meaningful manner is nothing but a bonus for Disney. And I promise you, they would rather have Notre Dame even than mighty Miami, and certainly more than Tulane or James Madison.
Hey, let me throw something at you too. When I heard this, my first thought went to last year, because I was this guy. I said there is no way on this earth that Disney is going to let the College Football Playoff Committee put SMU in over Alabama. No way.
Right.
It's a TV show. It's not going to happen. Who was in the College Football Playoff, Jay, and who wasn't?
Disney. That may be what changes here, Terry. It may be that somebody in Burbank finally goes, you know what, dadgummit, we're not letting these people decide anymore. We'll take this. Thank you, Hunter. You're a check.
Right. That's the thing. Everybody wants to make a big conspiracy theory. I don't think these folks are paying attention to TV ratings at all, or Bama would have been in last year ahead of SMU, and Notre Dame sure the heck would be in there this year. So I don't think there's a big conspiracy. I just think these people aren't paying attention to any of that when they're in that room. They're not. Because if they did, Bama would have been in last year, and Notre Dame sure the heck would be in this year.
Yes, I agree 100%. And again, Notre Dame is a massive draw. There are very few schools that are going to get as many eyeballs on a screen as Notre Dame. Ohio State, Bama, Georgia, Florida, LSU, that's about it. But Notre Dame, much bigger draw than Miami. Sorry, Hurricane fans, much bigger draw.
Oh, no, yeah, absolutely. So, yeah, I heard that one. That one entertained me. I will say this, though, and I did think about this. I mean, if you're Notre Dame, you beat your chest on your independence, right?
Yeah.
You've gone out of your way to be independent. You're mad at the Big Ten for what happened back in 1894, right? So you don't want any part of any of these conferences. You went to the poor, pitiful ACC and said, we'll be part of your conference in everything but the one sport you want, right?
Yeah.
So
and by the way, the ACC taking shots at Notre Dame has mattered. That was another thing that Mr. Bavakba said on Dan Patrick's Day, Terry, for those that missed it. He said they did some permanent harm to the relationship. And for those who don't know what I'm talking about, over the course of the last couple of weeks, the ACC's Twitter feed, again, run by a social media department out of the headquarters in Charlotte, was running, side-by-side comparisons and taking shots at Notre Dame's resume. And then this week, because they have a lot of control over what gets aired on the ACC network, I'm told that they re-aired the Notre Dame Miami game 13 times.
Are you serious?
I mean, you got nothing else to run. You ran the game 13 times on the ACC network to hammer home the point that Miami beat Notre Dame. If I'm Pete Bavakwa, I'm calling Jim Phillips, no relation. I'm calling Jim Phillips, and I'm like, dude, what are y'all doing here? I mean, I thought we were a member of the conference. I know we're not a football member, but I thought we were pretty good, upstanding members of the Atlantic Coast Conference. Why are you doing this? And I would really hammer home the level of disappointment that I have in how the ACC did that. Again, I know there's a lot of Notre Dame haters, and I'm not here to prop up Notre Dame, but between what the committee did and what the ACC's doing, like I say, Terry, I get it. I get why Notre Dame is really hacked off today. I get it.
I guess my one thing about it is, though, with Notre Dame, I get you want to be independent, and we all do, but this is part of when you're independent, this can happen to you. You don't have a conference championship to win. You can't get into a conference and do what everybody else is doing. So, okay, if you want to be independent, that's fine, but this is part of what just happened to you. If you were a real member of the ACC, for example, which they won't be in football, hell, you don't won the ACC. I mean, if you're as good as we all think you are, but you don't want to be part of a conference, you want to be independent. Well, being independent means you had really, 3 games this year to really show what you had, and you lost 2 of them. So that part of it is, you can't have your cake and eat it too all the time if you're Notre Dame. Just saying.
No, they can't, and it's unfortunate. And look, Notre Dame can't help, for instance, that Arkansas is not any good.
Right.
That Stanford's not very good. That Purdue's not very good. That's not Notre Dame's fault. I'd love for Notre Dame to join the Big Ten, and they'll never join the ACC in football. They'll get out of the ACC, and I wouldn't do it either.
No, me either.
But the thing is, if they join the Big Ten, that'd be all right, man, because you could have your games with Purdue, you could have your games with Michigan, you could certainly preserve your rivalry with Southern California. I don't think they will, Terry, because they're making plenty of money.
Yep.
They don't need to join a conference. But you're right. There are downsides, and this is one of them.
Postgame show. Jay Phillips, Terry Ford, we're hanging out. Now, before you roll out of here and go hit Buc-ee's, and once again, you didn't bring me anything. But anyway, before you hit Buc-ee's, anything else you want to get off your chest today, my friend?
No, I think, one more. And you don't even know where I'm going with this. I'm really, really disappointed for Dale Murphy. They had this contemporary Hall of Fame committee vote yesterday. Only Jeff Kent got in. That's fine. Whatever. Jeff Kent's a jerk, but he was a good baseball player. And look, Bonds and Clemens didn't even get 5 votes, so I think they're not even eligible to be considered again for 6 more years. Murph and Don Mattingly, I think can be up for consideration again in 3 years. If he didn't get in this time, I got very little to make me believe he's going to get in 3 years' time. I get why some people say he was the Hall of very, very good. But, and look, I'm very subjective on this one, Terry, because as you well know, and many in my audience who've listened to me for years, Dale Murphy is and will always be my favorite baseball player. He was the greatest Atlanta Brave of my youth. As I've told you before, when I was coming up as a kid, I got to play center field in Little League, and all I wanted to do was weigh 230 pounds and hit baseballs 500 feet. But if I had done that, it would have been great. But in all seriousness, Murph was such a great ball player, such a great person, such a great role model, two-time MVP, five-time Gold Glover. He and Mike Schmidt went head-to-head with home runs and RBIs for so much of the 80s in the National League. Wasn't Murph's fault that the Braves of the late 80s were wretched, but, I really think he's a Hall of Fame type baseball player, but not enough people that actually matter agree with that. So I know he's got a lot of support, but I was really disappointed yesterday to see that Murph didn't make it. He of the 12 votes that he needed, he got 6. So, only halfway there, and that's not near good enough at this point. I don't know if you agree with me or not, but I don't know in 3 years' time if there's enough lobbying to go on to get Dale Murphy another 6 votes to get into the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, I don't know either. And with Kent, it was kind of surprising that the one guy was Kent, because look, offensively, Jeff Kent was a Hall of Fame second baseman, offensively. Defensively, Kent was a disaster. He wasn't a good defender. He was just a high-level offensive player. And, his numbers offensively are phenomenal. But a lot of times we look at those and forget that you also have to go in the field and play defense. And the middle of the diamond is very important defensively. Have I missed something?
No, you haven't. And again, Dale Murphy was a 5-time Gold Glove winner.
Yeah, and so with Kent, look, there's nothing against Jeff Kent. People I talked to covered the Giants. He was a miserable human being. But forget that for a minute.
Right.
Just talk about him on the field. Offensively, high-level guy, but defensively was nowhere near, not even an average defender for most of his career. So I was a little surprised out of all the guys that were eligible that it was Kent that got through. I really was. I was like, oh, okay. I guess we're just judging him on offense.
I was too. I kind of thought Mattingly would get there too. So disappointed for Mattingly as well, to be honest with you. But,
I tell you, it's a shame that Mattingly, I tell you what, Jay, if Mattingly doesn't have that debilitating back injury, Mattingly, the numbers he was putting up were Hall of Fame level before he got hurt. They just were.
Yeah. Well, and again, there's a lot of people who say if Dale Murphy hit about 5 more home runs and got over 400, he'd be in. So if that's all it takes, then put the man in.
Well, that's the thing. Remember those numbers? The old days was you got to hit 400 home runs, right? That was the mark of a true power hitter, was 400 homers back in that era, remember?
Yeah. Murph should be in. That's all I got to say.
All right, man. I'll tell you what, my friend, you have a safe trip. Good luck tomorrow, and we will talk to you soon. And we're all thinking about you, my man.
Yeah, thanks, man. We're appreciate you, and hard to believe, but tomorrow, yours truly, halfway through chemotherapy, man. So I appreciate the support. We're getting there.
All right, hang in there, and we will talk soon. Okay?
Yep.
All right, we'll talk to you. That's our buddy Jay Phillips. Will be back with us most likely on Wednesday. So we will be talking to Jay then. All right, post-game show. Terry Ford, appreciate you hanging out with us. There was some basketball this weekend. The men and the women went at it. We will hear from Lamont Paris, what he had to say post-game after the men took out Stetson on Saturday. That's coming up here on the post-game show. We go till 6 on the game. All right, there's some hooping going on this weekend. The men, they disposed of Stetson. The women, just what the women did to North Carolina Central was just like a felony. Start with the men, though, on Saturday, coming off that tough loss to Virginia Tech. Got a chance to kind of, you cleanse the palate a little bit, so to speak. Get that taste out of your mouth. 82-51 over Stetson. Led by, 19 at the half. Cruised along. Shot it well. Over 50% from the floor. 44% from three. 83% from the line. Michi went for 17. Grant Polk. This is a three-point shooting machine. Grant Polk, 12 points, 4 of 7 from the floor, 4 of 6 from three. And, I mean, obviously that's Grant's role, the freshman. Comes off the pine and just fires threes. So far this year, Grant Polk has taken 36 shots, 30 of them from three. He's hitting 50% from the floor, 50% from three. Has only been in the line twice. Obviously, he is brought in. Grant, get behind the three-point line and knock down some threes. Knock down some trays, Ben. Also, Elijah Strong, 4 of 6 from the floor. Did go 2 of 4 from three. Now, Elijah Strong struggling from three going into that game on Saturday. And, look, watching him play, I like what he does inside the three-point line. Elijah Strong can get some buckets. It's just this year so far, Elijah Strong's taken 78 shots, 35 of them from three, and right now Strong's hitting a tick under 26% from three. Few too many threes when you're struggling that bad. Now, he was a better three-point shooter last year at Boston College. He hit 36%. First year, only took 10 and hit 3 of them. So he is a better three-point shooter than he's shown here so far. But, man, when you're making buckets inside the three-point line, I'm not saying don't take any threes, but do what's working for you right now, and you still take a few threes, and hopefully you get your swerve back. But that 9 threes against Virginia Tech, man, and you were 1 for 9. But Elijah Strong bouncing back, 2 of 4 from three, and scoring 12 off the bench in 16 minutes. Elijah Strong has played for the most part very well. You'd like to see him rebound a little bit more, but he has been obviously the most consistent inside scorer for South Carolina so far this year. So 82-51, Gamecocks get the W. Lamont Paris talking post-game. First of all, he said that win over Stetson was good for the growth of this year's Gamecocks.
We've talked a lot about being growth-minded and being focused on improvement, and I thought this was there were some specific areas that I thought we did that. We spent a couple days after the Virginia Tech game addressing a couple of things that I really thought that we needed to address, and there was some growth. It wasn't perfect by any stretch of the imagination, but there was definitely some growth, particularly on the defensive side of the ball and in our ball screen coverage responsibilities. I'd say that probably that was the number one thing that we were really focusing on, and I thought we did a much better job in this game at that. And we made some shots too, so that always is good. But anytime you hold a college basketball team to those low numbers in terms of field goal percentages and ultimately 51 points, you're going to give yourself a great chance to have success.
I mean, Stetson, to Lamont's point, their numbers, 32% from the floor, 19% from three. Stetson was 4-21 from three. And look, not all of that was great defense. Some of that was just Stetson missing shots. But South Carolina did, to their credit, really put a little bit more intensity on the defensive end of the court. Because that's been the consistent defensive intensity and focus has been an issue, especially the ball screen defense. Teams will ball screen you to death if you can't cover it and guard it. So it was a better outing. more defensive want to in this basketball game. And again, is Stetson great? No. A couple years ago, I think, went to the tournament. They've been kind of retooling since. But this is what you do to a team you should whoop up on what you do. You take them to the woodshed and whoop up on them. And that's what South Carolina did to Stetson on Saturday. Here is also Lamont Paris talking about something else that kind of bothered him from the Virginia Tech game, and that was decision-making. Here's Lamont discussing decision-making after the Stetson game.
Yeah, better. I mean, actually today, I think our decision-making was worse offensively, which hasn't been an issue for us for the most part this year. Our decision-making, the decision-making that was failing us was normal decisions in defensive situations, okay? There's two worlds to live in, three really. There's a world where there's these rules and you're obedient to these rules. There's a world where you forget all about the rules and then you just have physical reactions and you can block shots and do things to recover. And then there's another world where of all these normal things, a breakdown happens, a guy makes a really good play on the other side, whatever it might be, and then there's a decision in front of you that's a seemingly normal, pretty normal decision. And we had done a poor job of making those decisions in those moments, pretty straightforward decisions, and I thought we were much better. I thought it was a couple of things. One, those decisions were better. Two, we were in less of those situations because we guarded the ball better, we chased over screens better, we were more obedient in our ball screen coverage and responsibilities. I thought all those things made there fewer of those decisions had to be made, and then when they were, I thought we did a better job.
I mean, and the decision-making that Lamont obviously is talking about the defensive end of the court where, some of the stuff in the Virginia Tech game really bugged him. And you heard him say this game he thought maybe offensively some of the decision-making was a thing. But defensively, the team was much better. And look, no one's going to sit here and tell you that South Carolina being one of the best teams in America. Stetson, to be fair, there are 365 teams in college basketball on the men's side. If you look at Ken Palm's rankings, Stetson is 342nd. Yeah, they're not very good. They're 307th on offense, 343 on defense. They're not a good basketball team, but South Carolina did what you do to a team that's not very good. You beat them by 30. Next up for the Gamecocks will be Citadel. That is this Saturday. So South Carolina's got the week off this Saturday against Citadel. 6:30 pregame, 7 o'clock tip right here on the game in Columbia, and also our sister station, 100.3 The Game in Myrtle Beach. And Carolina calls with Lamont and Derek Scott, 7 o'clock this Thursday. You can hear that right here on the game. And we'll get you caught up on what happened with the women, because what the women did to North Carolina Central was wow. Just wow. So we will discuss that also coming up here on the show. Next, we will get into some Gamecock women basketball. Terry Ford, it is the post-game show. Appreciate you hanging out with us. We go till 6 on the game. We talk a lot about the men's clinic of South Carolina with Dr. Dan and his staff. And look, it's simple. Guys don't like to talk about it. Don't want to think about it. It sucks. It stinks. It's terrible. But as you get older, you're not 21 anymore. Heck, you're not 31 anymore. A lot of stuff that was natural and easy isn't natural and easy anymore, whether it's sleep, working out at the gym, bouncing back from your workouts, driving life, whether it's the living room, bedroom, kitchen, office, whatever. Maybe you don't remember things as good as you used to. Maybe you're depressed. Maybe you just got the blah. And it's just a big cloud hovering over you. Whatever it could be is one way to find out what's going on, and that's to call 803-875-MENS. Set an appointment at the Men's Clinic of South Carolina. Tell your story to Dr. Dan and his staff, and they will do what they can to get you in a specialized program back to being you again. Just make the call and go see them. 803-875-MENS, Men's Clinic of South Carolina. Men's Clinic. Make that call. Men's Clinic. Let's check the traffic for the first time this afternoon. A couple accidents. Longtown Road near Lee Road, also US 176 Broad River Road at I-20. And, of course, our typical long-term construction, I-126 at Hugie and I-26. I-26 between Bush River Road and Old Sandy Run Road, and I-26 between, I-20 between I-26 between exit 64 and 65. Come back, talk about Dawn and the women, what happened on Sunday at CLA, an easy victory. That's coming up next here on the postgame show. All right, post-game show. Terry Ford, our buddy Jay, will be back with us on Wednesday. All right, we talked about the men. Nice weekend. An easy victory over Stetson. The women, they just dismantled North Carolina Central. Wow. That was, wasn't even as close as a score either. That was just a butt whipping. After escaping Louisville, and that was, again, Cardinals had a wide open 3 and a chance to win and just missed it. South Carolina escapes there and then, well, kind of takes it out on Stetson. Whew. That was something. I'll get the box score up in front of me. It was 106-42. South Carolina scored 60 in the second half. They outscored North Carolina Central 60-17 in the second half. Yeah. Denia Latson went for 32. Phenomenal game. Latson was 11 of 18 from the floor, 5 of 6 from 3, 5 of 5 from the line, throw in 4 boards, couple of assists, 3 steals. Joyce Edwards went for 25. The freshman McDowell goes for 16 and 27 minutes, hit 5 threes. South Carolina toured off 51% from the floor, 52% from 3, almost 80% from the line. It was coldly efficient. And Dawn Staley postgame, though, said this team's still trying to get that identity thing right.
I mean, again, we're still trying to find our identity. And I think a lot of times we are, I probably said we got our own little islands and we got to make a continent. That's kind of what we got to be able to play together. I thought Joyce was the example of it. I thought she kicked it out, got T started with some kick out threes, all right. And then it seemed like everybody started to just play for each other rather than self. And it's not, I don't think we have a selfish group. That's the thing. We don't have a selfish group. They're just wired differently in that they like to call their own number. And sometimes that's not the correct thing to do. It's playing together. Once we play together, everybody will be able to have some fun out there and score. And I'm glad that they got a feeling of what that is, because, that's what we're used to.
South Carolina, 34 made field goals, 19 assists on the day. Joyce Edwards, like Dawn talked about, had 6 assists, just kicking the ball out to open shooters. Raven Johnson also had 5 assists in the game. South Carolina did have 17 turnovers, but again, when you win 106-42, who's nitpicking? But of course, Dawn will use that because you got to, when you win by like 4 points, as a coach, you got to have something, right? You can talk about the 17 turnovers. That's what you can do. But this team is like, look, they are, if you look at analytics and you go to barttorvik.com, South Carolina's third in the country in efficiency. Fourth on offense, second on defense. So Dawn is still saying we got to find that identity, but the numbers say this is a really bleeping good basketball team. And Dawn thinks needs to lock in a little bit more on both ends of the court, a little bit more unselfishness on offense, and defensively, the teams have been getting some open looks on the perimeter, and I know it drives Dawn crazy. So there's still some things to work on, but right now you're sitting at 9-1. The only game you lost was a really close buzzer beater loss type against Texas. So, I mean, yeah, you're not probably where you want to be later, but you're heading down a good road. And South Carolina, next up will be Penn State on Sunday. I believe 3 o'clock pregame, 3:30 tip, again right here on 107.5 The Game. All right, college football playoff. We talked about a ton today. I want to get back to it real quick. Look, Indiana, this is craziness. We have never taken Indiana football seriously as sports fans ever. Indiana was a basketball school. You say Indiana University, you go Bob Knight. Or if you say the state of Indiana, Hoosiers, that movie wasn't about football. All of a sudden, Indiana's a football school thanks to Kurt Cignetti. What Cignetti has done is just, it's crazy. In 2 years, Kurt Cignetti took a school that was a punchline in football, has made the college football playoff 2 straight seasons, and is the number 1 seed going into the college football playoff. It's unbelievable. And Cignetti has done it really mainly through the portal. And here's old Coach Sig. Look, what they did against Ohio State, I didn't see coming. Just be truthful. I thought Ohio State would win by like 7, 8, something like that. Because I thought Indiana had never seen a defense that good all year. And to be quite honest, I thought Ohio State's offense would be just a couple ticks better against the Indiana defense than they were. Indiana's defense won that football game. They were phenomenal against Ohio State. I mean, last year Indiana was a cute little story. They didn't play anybody. Schedule was like filled with a lot of like trucking schools and stuff like that. But this year they go to Eugene and beat Oregon. And then the Big Ten championship game on a neutral field, they stand toe-to-toe with Ohio State and beat them. Of course, it helps that the Ohio State kicker shanked a, 27, 29-yard field goal? Whew. But Hoosiers are something else. Here's Coach Sig in the postgame talking about, this is all great, but we got bigger goals.
I got 2 things to say. Besides all the thank yous to the president, Pam Whitten, the AD, Scott Dolson, our assistant coaches, our team, our seniors, our fans, all right? We are Big Ten champions. And you talk about changing the way people think. I got 3.5 weeks to get this team humble and hungry for the playoffs.
What do you say? The Indiana Hoosiers are the Big Ten champions in football. I know. It's got to be one of the, think about this for my frame. Indiana Hoosiers are the number 1 seed in the college football playoff, okay? Vanderbilt won 10 games. And their quarterback and the Indiana quarterback are probably the number 1 and 2 in some way in the Heisman Trophy voting. Think about that. Virginia won 10 games, almost won the ACC, and got in the college football playoff. Run that through your head. Texas Tech won the Big 12 and has got a bye in the college football playoff. The world is upside down and crazy. The new era of college football. You still have your blue bloods. Georgia's still hanging around. Notre Dame won double-digit games. Last year played for the title. Alabama's back in the playoff. Ohio State's there. You still have your blue bloods, but you also have some really cool stories that 5 years ago, if I told you that Indiana will be the #1 seed in the college football playoff, Vanderbilt will win 10 games, Virginia will win 10 games, Diego Pavia, the quarterback at Vanderbilt, might win the Heisman Trophy, or some dude named Mendoza, the quarterback at Indiana, might win the Heisman Trophy. Texas Tech is in the mix to win a national championship. You'd say, dude, how many bottles of Jack have you drank? It's unbelievable. But it also lends to, let's just be honest, I saw a couple people post and comment like this of Carolina fans. It's like, man, I'm so happy for Indiana, or I'm happy for Vanderbilt, or I'm happy for Texas Tech, or I'm happy with this, that, and the other. Goes, well, why can't this be us? And really, that's the other side of this whole thing, right? Is if you're South Carolina. You're like, why can't we catch lightning in a bottle like this? If Indiana can do it, why can't we? And that's going on all over the country. You say, wait a minute. If Virginia can almost make the college football playoff, if Vandy can almost make the college football playoff, if Texas Tech can make it, if Indiana can make it, why can't my school? It's a new world. Just do what these guys have been doing. And look, we know Texas Tech has spent their way to it. They've dropped a ton of money, but they've gotten the right players. And, again, their head coach is good. Joey McGuire's done a really nice job with all these guys they brought in through the portal they paid a ton of money to. But Indiana, it hasn't been. They're just spending. What Indiana's done with kind of like two different teams in the last 2 years with Coach Cignetti is massively impressive. And obviously Vandy, we've talked about that all year. So just crazy times. Unreal. I will break the vault open. Coming up next, get you caught up on what's going on this day in the world of sports. That is on the post-game show. Terry Ford, appreciate you hanging. We go till 6 on the game. We won't get any J or Nay because we don't have J. Can't do J or Nay without J. We can do the Vault, sponsored by Purple Wave Auctions. This happened on this day in 2012.
And now, the 2012 winner of the Heisman Memorial Trophy is Johnny Manziel.
There you go. Johnny Football on this day in 2012 won the Heisman Trophy. Redshirt freshman wins the award. And the interesting, look, we all know the story of Johnny Manziel, right? Phenomenal on the field that year at Texas A&M. And we found out usually he was not very sober at times. But Johnny Manziel wins it in 2012. And just, again, I'll never forget that gets drafted in the first round by the Cleveland Browns. Everybody's kind of mixed on Manziel because he was phenomenal in college. Some of the plays Johnny Football made at A&M were unreal, right? Ends up in the NFL, first-round pick. And Truck Stop Jimmy, the owner of the Cleveland Browns, when drafting Manziel, said he was walking, to the office, I think it was. And he said, like a homeless man looked up at him and said, "Draft Johnny Manziel." So, of course, Truck Stop Jimmy took that as a sign and drafted Johnny Manziel, and it was a disaster. But that should not take away as good as Manziel was the year he won the Heisman. Because, man, that was fun to watch. It really was. This day in 2007, Tim Tebow becomes the first sophomore to win the Heisman. Beat out Arkansas's Darren McFadden. Darren McFadden became the first player to finish second in consecutive seasons since 1949, by the way. And also on this day, I want to scroll back and make sure I get this one right. 1977, Earl Campbell won the Heisman Trophy. Man, Earl Campbell is something else. Not just in college. Earl Campbell is something else in the NFL until, his body gave out because he spent years running over folks. You know how many NFL defenders in that era, if you see them sitting at the pool, they're sitting there with the shirt off getting some sun, they're like, "What is that on your chest?" "Oh, that's a helmet mark from Earl Campbell." Earl Campbell was a dude. All right, so here's your vault, your day in sports history. Hope you had a good weekend, enjoyed all this football. I'm not going to lie, I'll tell you really quick the story. One thing I did this weekend besides sit on my butt and watch a ton of football and eat a lot and drink various beverages, my girlfriend loves to go cutting down a Christmas tree. It's her thing. Well, no, it's her thing to watch me cut down the Christmas tree. And if you've ever seen me on the video or you met me or know me, Lumberjack is not my nickname, okay? I might be the least handyman ever. Matter of fact, my kids call me Break It Dad. But anyway, so I have to cut down the Christmas tree every year, which means we go and my girlfriend, it takes her like 6 hours to pick out the tree, right? I have hypothermia. I have no feeling in my hands or my feet. My face is turning different colors. She's like, "I like this one. No, maybe that one." And I tell you, stand by that one while I go look at some other ones. So I'll stand there for an hour while she looks at other trees. So eventually I have to lay down and start cutting the tree, right? And this time, and look, again, I am the least lumberjack dude ever when it comes to any kind of outdoorsman skills. So I'm sawing this thing, and I'm sawing it, and switching hands. It's just not, it's just not, nothing, right? I'm sawing it, and there's nothing. It ain't happening. And she's like making fun of me, which she should have. And so after doing that for a while, I go, "I think the blade's dull. It's got to be the blade." And she's like, "Oh, yeah, it's a blade. Sure, whatever, it's a blade. It's you suck, whatever." I'm like, "Well, I do, but I think it's the blade." And so then we go get another saw, and I go down there, finished, and I start cutting this tree, and I was right for once. It was the bleeping blade. It wasn't me. I mean, don't get me wrong, it took me 45 minutes to cut it down, but at this time it wasn't me. So I laid on the ground for a couple hours cutting down a tree. I hope you had a better weekend. Just saying. Then I went back home, watched more football, and had more beverages. I'm much better at that than I am at sitting outside cutting down trees. Just not good at it. We got a Christmas tree. And I'm not allowed to decorate it. And I really don't, it's like, I mean, maybe you have someone in this house that's like this. Like my girlfriend has certain ways she wants to put every ball in there certain ways. Now, that one goes over there. No, that one goes over there. And like the first few years we were together, come help me decorate the tree. And then, and after like an hour, don't put that one there, put it over here. No, put that, put down there. I was like, why don't you decorate it and I'll watch. How about that? So, anyway, hope you had a better weekend than I did. I mean, it was fun. That's what I meant to say. All right. 5 o'clock news coming up, sponsored by Integrated Media. We're get you caught up on the news of the day, college football playoff stuff. The Gamecocks searching for an OC. We'll talk about that all coming up here on the postgame show on the game. Get our 5 o'clock check on the traffic here on the post-game show. Couple accidents. Clemson Road at Hardscrabble, I-26 westbound between Sunset Boulevard and St. Andrews Road. And if you don't know, that's between exits 110 and 106. Still a couple accidents going on from a half hour ago. Longtown Road near Lee Road and Broad River Road at I-20. 5 o'clock news coming up, sponsored by Integrated Media. That's next here on the game. Time to hit the 5 o'clock news here on the game. Postgame show. Terry Ford hanging out with you. Jay will be back on Wednesday. All right, so some interesting goings on, obviously, college football playoff. We really haven't even gotten into the matchups because we're so busy talking about the process that got us to the college football playoff. One of the interesting, the number one most interesting tidbit of information is Notre Dame got locked out. After being in the top 10 the entire time of these college football polls, week to week to week, Notre Dame gets dropped out. And why? Oh, the thing everyone was talking about. They lost to Miami head-to-head. This committee wasn't really even talking about it and saying it didn't matter. There's other metrics. These teams weren't close enough, and their metrics were close for a while. But then finally, Notre Dame and Miami were right next to each other in the poll because BYU got whooped by Texas Tech. We'll get into all that in a minute in the Big 12 championship game. So then the College Football Playoff Committee, with Notre Dame and Miami right next to each other, then the head-to-head mattered and Miami jumped Notre Dame. Here is Hunter Yurachek, the AD at Arkansas, who is the College Football Playoff Committee chair, trying to explain this mess that the College Football Playoff Committee created.
Maurice, if you recall, Miami was a loser of 2 of 3 when they entered the poll at 18, and they were in close proximity to Louisville at the time, who I believe was below them in 21st or 22nd spot. And we didn't use the head-to-head metric to compare Miami and Louisville. Louisville, a team who had beat Miami, but not until they really got in close proximity, side by side, with the move with BYU, were we able to evaluate just those two teams side by side. We always had someone between them, whether it was previously Alabama and BYU, and then just BYU in the last week.
So basically, BYU losing dropped BYU down a spot and moved Miami up a spot, which that meant now Notre Dame and Miami were next to each other in the poll, which now meant the head-to-head mattered, even though previously it didn't matter. You follow me? Well, I'm glad you are, because I have no idea what the hell I'm talking about. Because no one understands this committee, because nothing they do makes sense. So basically, BYU falls because they lost in the Big 12 championship game. They got whooped by Texas Tech. Virginia falls 2 spots because they lost the ACC championship to Duke. Follow me on this. By the way, that game became really fun, by the way. And then, follow me here, Alabama got taken to the woodshed. They took a belt to that backside to Georgia. But guess what? Alabama didn't fall at all. But BYU did, and so did Virginia. But Alabama didn't fall, despite the fact they looked a heck of a lot worse than Virginia did. And I know Georgia's much better than Duke. I get it. But why do 2 of the 3 teams, well, really Ohio State fell too from 1 to 2. So 3 of the 4 Power 4 teams who lost fell a spot, in Virginia's case 2, but Alabama didn't fall at all. Despite Alabama looked worse than any of them, but didn't fall. So here's our guy Hunter giving us the explanation on why Alabama did not drop despite their embarrassing showing against Georgia in the SEC championship game.
Yeah, we evaluated all of those conference championship games and felt like in the end, regardless of Alabama's performance yesterday, their body of work in those first 12 games where they had probably the best win, arguably this season, winning at number 3 Georgia, having a win against Vanderbilt, wins against Tennessee as well. Their strength of schedule was the highest in the top 11, and we felt like in spite of their performance yesterday in the conference championship, they deserve to stay in that 9 spot.
I guess that's a confusing part because, again, Alabama's body of work is good. It's really good. Their strength of schedule, strength of record, their wins over quality opponents, all that stuff is definitely college football playoff worthy. No one's going to argue the resume. But again, if you're going to drop BYU and Virginia and Ohio State for losing a conference championship game, why aren't you dropping Alabama? Because, again, to me, they look the worst of all those teams that lost. But why doesn't, anybody else's, like, for an example, BYU lost 2 games. Both were Texas Tech. And, yeah, they don't have the wins that Alabama does, but, I mean, you had BYU in the top 12. And you dropped them. They weren't far behind Alabama. Ohio State was ahead of Alabama. You dropped them. I'm just confused. None of it has any logic to it, I guess. And I said this early in the show. I got no problem. Matter of fact, I would have had Miami ahead of Notre Dame because the head-to-head win. I would have. But the way this committee got to that was fertilizer. Because you had Notre Dame sitting ahead of Miami the whole time, poo-pooing the head-to-head, and then in the last poll, all of a sudden the head-to-head mattered. It made no sense. It just did not make sense. And then you drop these other teams who lose their conference championship games, but the team that got beat the worst, you didn't drop them at all, then you bring up their body of work. It's just like, it was like me, my dad caught me taking the car and I wasn't supposed to. I'm making all these excuses. I'm moving this around and moving that around. I'm trying to make up stuff as I go along. They remind me of me. Trying to get out of trouble when the old man busted me taking my car. When I was grounded. We won't go into why. Court documents are sealed. But it's just, that's my problem with this whole thing. And I've seen people say, well, they got it right. Okay, if that's your opinion, fine. Because you can make cases for Notre Dame and Miami and Alabama, and we can go round and round all day long with our different thoughts. And like I said in the first riff of the show, if you believe a certain way, no one's going to change your mind. But it's the way that they got there that I think is puzzling and weird. And I really think this, and Tyler and I were talking about this early this morning. This committee, it should be like the college basketball deal. Do not have this committee vote or put polls up or anything until they're putting together the 12-team playoff. The final poll should be done by the committee. Don't have these other polls. Just let the AP run, man. Have a show every Tuesday with all the ESPN talking heads and media people and the analytic experts, and let everybody come up with their own stuff and yell back and forth at each other. I mean, you still probably get the same ratings. But this committee's credibility goes in the crapper every week, every year. Well, I don't care if it's a 14 playoff, a 12-team playoff. It doesn't matter. The credibility of the people who are putting this together, it's just never, it gets worse the more you get to hear them talk. Notre Dame, their AD was on Dan Patrick today, and he let the ACC have it. He said the conference, of course, it has all of the Notre Dame Fighting Irish sports except football, has caused permanent damage to the relationship between themselves and Notre Dame. Basically, Notre Dame said that the ACC had gone out of their way to basically try to attack Notre Dame's quest to get to the college football playoff. And Notre Dame basically is saying that the ACC attacked their biggest partner. And, again, we can bat that back and forth. Because, again, Notre Dame is not in the ACC in football. They play, 5 ACC games, I think it is? But they're not in the conference. but their other 24 sports are. Jim Phillips, the ACC commissioner, said in a statement today that the conference stands behind their efforts to support and advocate for all 17 of our football playing member institutions. And look, that's the thing here. You know, Notre Dame can be butthurt at what the ACC was doing, but Notre Dame is not a member of the ACC in football. Miami is. And if you're Jim Phillips, you got to stick up for your football member. And look, no one's sitting here saying Jim Phillips is a phenomenal commissioner. But Jim Phillips' job is not to stump for Notre Dame. Jim Phillips' job is to stump for Miami. Notre Dame makes a choice not to be part of the ACC in football. I get it. I wouldn't be either if I was Notre Dame. But again, you can't have your cake and eat it too. I fully understand why Notre Dame's mad. They should be mad the way this process played out. It was ridiculous. I'd be mad too. But again, you got to understand, Notre Dame, that Jim Phillips and the ACC, their loyalty in football is not to you because you don't want to be part of them. Miami is part of the ACC, and it's the ACC's job to prop up their school to get them in the college football playoff because here the cash register's going off when you, yeah. So again, Notre Dame, I get you. I'd be mad too because this process is a joke. And whether, you know, and again, it's just how the thing played out was ridiculous to get to this end point. All right, stuff that goes away from the college football playoff. Shedeur Sanders will remain the Cleveland Browns quarterback for the rest of the year. Sanders has had some good moments this year since taking over as a starting quarterback. He's also had some bad. But the offense has been much better under Sanders than it was under Dylan Gabriel. The Colts have quarterback troubles. Daniel Jones is injured. Blew his Achilles. Now Riley Leonard has an injury, I think a knee injury, unspecified issue. Anthony Richardson has been on the IR since October following a freak pregame incident involving stretching bands that left him with a facial fracture. He's not been cleared to return, but the Colts haven't closed the door on that idea. So basically, Anthony Richardson was attacked by stretching bands and lost the fight. So what are the Colts going to do at quarterback? I don't know. What's Peyton Manning up to? And sad thing is the Colts started off so well this year, and it's been a disaster here in the last, month? The Baltimore Ravens, just my Baltimore Ravens, had some, first of all, they lost 27-22 at home to the Steelers to fall 6-7, and a game behind Pittsburgh, plus Pittsburgh's got, a win over Baltimore in hand. The game was in Baltimore, but the Ravens got no home cooking from the refs. Ravens aren't happy about Isaiah Lively. Looked like he caught a touchdown pass, and it was overruled, saying he didn't complete the catch. I get it. It was kind of weird. I don't know what a catch is anymore, but can I be honest? I told my buds back home this. Ravens lost this game not over the refs. Ravens lost this game because they got in the red zone 4 times and kicked 3 field goals and got stopped on downs. Blame the refs if you want. I blame the Ravens offense. But the likely play looked like a catch. But again, I don't know what a catch is anymore in the NFL. I don't think anybody in the NFL knows what a catch is. And John Harbaugh, the head coach, says the rule's about as clear as mud. And finally, before we jump out, Miami Heat's Terry Rozier pleads not guilty to sports betting charges. You remember this. Rozier has been basically taken to federal court on wire fraud and money laundering conspiracy charges. And, of course, Rozier pleads not guilty to the really surprise of no one. All right, there's your 5 o'clock news sponsor by Integrated Media. We'll hear from Lamont Paris and Dawn Staley and talk about the offensive coordinator situation with the Gamecocks. That's coming up next here on the Postgame Show with Terry Ford. Appreciate you hanging out. We go till 6 on the game. Just a little Gamecock notebook stuff right now on the post-game show. The offensive coordinator gig is still open in South Carolina. A lot of smoke that Kendall Briles right now is the leading candidate, the TCU OC. Briles, again, we talked about the resume, and it's not a done deal. Not a done deal yet. Even though somebody decided to go on Wikipedia, and now they took it off of Wikipedia. Someone had put down that Briles was the offensive coordinator at South Carolina, because people, you can go on and just edit something if you want, but they got a ton of people that like watch Wikipedia, and when something's not correct, they'll wipe it out. But anyway, so Briles has been at TCU since 2023 when Garrett Riley left to go to Clemson. Briles took over at TCU. And, of course, Sonny Dykes, the head coach, is really, look, to be honest, it's his offense. And Briles has had a kind of a mixed bag. Looked at Baylor, obviously, it was his dad's offense, Art Briles. Florida Atlantic, even though Lane Kiffin said he gave the offense over to Kendall Briles to run, he had Lane Kiffin hovering over him. At Houston in 2018, it was Major Applewhite, former OC, now a head coach. Florida State, 1 year with Willie Taggart, again, that was a mess. The 3 years I focus on, I've been trying to look at, is his 3 years at Arkansas. And before that was said and done, Briles had KJ Jefferson, was playing at a high level at quarterback, both throwing it and running it. The wide receiver, Treylon Burks, was an explosive playmaker down the field, ended up being a first-round pick in the NFL draft by the Titans. Of course, that didn't really work out well for Burks. And Rocket Sanders gained almost 1,500 yards. And that offense was cooking. And those are the 3 years that Kendall Briles truly ran an offense. He was the OC, the play caller. He didn't have a head coach above him who was a former offensive coordinator type, and doing it for any length of time. So that was one where that Arkansas offense was good. And Kendall Briles, you watch a couple things online, talks about he likes tempo, likes to spread the field out, looks for one-on-one matchups, a lot of RPO stuff. He's had years where his teams have ran the ball really well or thrown it really well. At TCU, this year was kind of a mixed bag. Hoover, the quarterback, a lot of turnovers, especially late in the season. Hoover struggled a bit. The TCU offense kind of wasn't as good as it had been previously. But to me, Kendall Briles obviously would be a huge upgrade to what we saw in the past year. Huge upgrade. Because, look, if South Carolina's offense got top 40 in the country, to go with a good defense and good special teams, you go. Again, you're looking at different results. I'm not saying you're in the college football playoff, but you're sure the heck not 4-8. And there have been some other names thrown out there, like the OC, Bell at Pitt or Decker at Old Dominion. But if you're Shane Beamer and you're coming off a 4-8, and you know how important next year is to you as the head coach at South Carolina, you probably want someone who's got a bigger resume of success and some success in the Power 4 league, more than guys who have shorter resumes or haven't done it in the Power 4 league. Does that make sense? Because, I mean, really, you want as few unknowns as possible going into next year. You don't want to take a chance, because if the chance fails, that might not be good for your future employment. And look, we sit around, and when it comes to what's going on last year, look, obviously no one's happy. Shane's not happy. No one's happy. But last year, again, defense was good enough to win. Special teams are good enough to win. The offense just wasn't. It starts with the offensive line. And the system of offense just didn't work for the quarterback. But there were a lot of good things. Like, you had a recruiting class that was top 15. You were 4-8. The biggest fix here is this offense. If you can bring in a guy like a Kendall Briles, he just makes you a top 40 offense. Think how much better Everything could be. Because last year you were like in the bottom half of the country and really near the bottom in a lot of metrics. If you would have had a top 40, heck, top 50 offense, where would you have been? So that would be a huge improvement. So we'll see where it goes. It's not official yet, but Kendall Briles, his name is out there as the leader right now. All right, another little note. Remember the name Stan Drayton, 30-plus years of coaching experience, as he has coached a lot of running backs in his life. And he's a guy that could be the next running back coach at South Carolina. He's coached guys like Jarius Norwood, Bijan Robinson, Ezekiel Elliott, Carlos Hyde, Brian Westbrook. A lot of experience. And his name is out there right now as the possible running back coach at South Carolina, according to Gamecock Central. But again, nothing is a done deal as of yet. Very interesting. Julian Walker, of course, Dutch Fork won another state championship. If you haven't heard, that's like 100 in a row. Tom Knotts, the head coach at Dutch Fork, was talking about Julian Walker over the weekend. And here is what Dutch Fork's head coach, Tom Knotts, said about South Carolina's incoming freshman next year at the edge, Julian Walker.
Very, very special. I was a little bit worried about him because he was so distracted. Belichick kept him on the phone for an hour, throwing money at him, and it was just crazy, and he was so stressed out. And finally, after he announced it, he felt like the weight of the world was off his shoulder, and he did turn his attention to this, and just has been a marvelous leader, tremendous character. South Carolina got a great player in him, just a great guy to be around. If you watched him on the sideline, just an incredible guy to be around.
Belichick just kept throwing money at him. But of course, Walker signed his letter of intent to play at South Carolina, and Dutch Fork again winning another state title. Anyway, Dutch Fork and all the schools that won their state titles Friday and Saturday, congratulations. Good work. All right, South Carolina on the women's side, they just took apart North Carolina Central. Dawn Staley, though, talking about all opponents, no matter what won-loss record, bring different challenges.
I mean, they're all lessons. No matter the competition, they're lessons of discipline. Can we play discipline on both sides of the ball? Can we just play together? And it's challenging. It really is challenging. But I'm glad that we have, some games on our schedule where we can actually be a little more versatile. Just work through some things where, they aren't game deciding decisions being made in the first quarter. Like they were in a game like Texas or Louisville. Like the things that you're doing in the first quarter can impact the end of the game. And vice versa. The good things that you're doing in the first quarter can impact the end of the game. So it's great to not have so much pressure that you can play a little bit more free and kind of do the things that you need to do to feel good, but at the same time recognize when that's not really helping the team. It might be helping you, but overall it's not helping the team. And we need to see those examples of when it's not helping the team.
And Dawn, again, you say, well, Tara, they scored over 100 on North Carolina Central. And I guess the point she's making is sometimes it's not about you getting yours, it's maybe making that extra pass or moving the ball for the better shot. Instead of taking that shot, you're taking that shot because you think you can make it, obviously, or you think you're open enough to take that shot or go to the rack or whatever the case. And maybe there's a better shot. Go hunt the better shot at times. Is that always about you? Sometimes it's about the team, is what Dawn's saying. And once they get that straightened out, they got a lot of talent on the squad, especially on offense. There's your Gamecock Notebook. Drive Around the SEC is coming up next here on the Postgame Show on the Game. Our good buds At CHW Cabinetry, we talk about Star and her crew all the time. Because if you need cabinets done, you're not going to find a more experienced crew with the best customer service in the Midlands. And they do these photorealistic renderings that are just phenomenal. From beginning to end, you get to see the entire process play itself out. You sign off on everything. You give the big thumbs up because it's about you. It's your cabinets. You're the customer. Call 803-520-6837 no matter where you need cabinets in your home. CHW Cabinetry will make it happen for you. Just make that call. Go sit down with Star and her staff. Let them know what you want to do, what your vision is, what your budget, and they will make it happen for you. 803-520-6837. CHW Cabinetry. Give them a call. Get those cabinets taken care of from the pros at CHW. Taking a look at our traffic. Got some stop-and-go traffic. I-26 westbound between Sunset Boulevard and St. Andrews. That happens a lot between exits 110 and 106. Accident still Clemson Road at Hard Scrabble. Also I-20 westbound at Two Notch by exit 74. Also heavy traffic. DeQuincy Newman Freeway northbound between Farrow Road and I-20. And our typical long-term construction that never ends. Weather will be getting a little warmer through the week. We'll get highs in the mid to upper 50s by, Wednesday? That'll be a little chilly till then, especially at night through the week. We'll come back in our drive around the SEC. That is next here on the Postgame Show with Terry Ford. Appreciate you hanging out with us till 6 on the game. All right, drive around the SEC. Obviously, a lot of talk about the college football playoff. Over the weekend in the SEC championship game, Georgia, Kirby's got a Bama problem. But not Saturday. Talk about getting the Yeti off your back. Kirby Smart and Georgia, they take apart Alabama. 28-7, wasn't as close as a score. Here's Kirby post-game on how Georgia has gotten better.
They've responded in the face of so much adversity, so much criticism, and they just kept getting better and better. A couple of them just told me they want to go back and practice tonight. They said they want to get out there tonight and get a bloody Tuesday when we get back home. That's the kind of mentality this team has. They want to practice some more. They want to practice some more. They love contact, and we love them.
I love that. They love contact. We love them. Well, the team has gotten better over the course of the season. Defensively, they were having issues against the pass. That's gotten better. Offensively, they've gotten better. They can run it better. The passing game has kind of grown. They're just, and the fourth quarter they've owned pretty much all year. They're ready to rock and roll. They're on a roll. They will be dangerous, obviously, in this college football playoff with Georgia. And that game Saturday, what they did to Alabama, just took Alabama apart. And, the Tide didn't even look like they should have been on the same field with them. Gunnar Stockton was really efficient, didn't throw for a lot of yards, but was 20 for 26, 3 touchdown passes. Georgia only ran for 3.4 yards a carry, but ran it 41 times. And the defense, Ty Simpson, not very good. Only 19 of 39, threw a pick. Alabama couldn't run it. They, again, not sack adjusted, but basically, you take away Ty Simpson's minus 28 yards. Alabama's running backs went for 25 yards on like 10 carries. Alabama didn't even try to run the ball. First of all, you're behind. You're getting your tail kicked. You got to throw it. And Alabama really don't want to run it. Jam Miller is a huge key for the Tide. If Alabama has any hopes of at least winning one college football playoff game, they got to get Jam Miller back. Not that he is an all-world running back, but he's far and away their best back at this point. Tide looked like a mess, and Georgia just smacked them in the head for 4 quarters. And now it's time to move on to the college football playoff if you're Georgia. And obviously the college football playoff field set. We've been talking about it on and off all day. Alabama will take on Oklahoma. Remember, Oklahoma's now beaten Bama twice in a row. Last year, that win in Norman when Oklahoma wasn't very good, and Alabama had no business losing that game. And then in Tuscaloosa, Oklahoma beat them this season. Look, Sooners, that offense, since John Mateer came back from the injury, the hand injury, Mateer hadn't had a really good season. But the Oklahoma offense is better than the disaster it was last year, and the Oklahoma defense is phenomenal. And if Alabama can't run the ball or protect Ty Simpson, they'll go home. It's that simple. It's that easy. Texas A&M will host Miami. I mean, Miami's loaded with talent, but Mario Cristobal in a big game, I'm just not. Mario Cristobal is a heck of a recruiter. He really is. But I think, for an example, Mike Elko is playing chess, and Mario Cristobal is playing tic-tac-toe. Just saying. I think A&M wins that game at home. But again, Miami's got skills. They got talented players. But so does A&M. A&M, and that game's in College Station. Again, if I look at the coaches, I feel more comfortable about Mike Elko winning a college football playoff game and moving forward than Mario Cristobal. Ole Miss is in, and look, last time they played Tulane, they beat them by, what was it, 30? I mean, why did we get this matchup again? It could be a lot closer this time. Who knows? I mean, there's no more Lane Kiffin at Ole Miss, but you figure Ole Miss should win this game at home. It's just cool that Ole Miss gets to host a home game in the college football playoff. The SEC is very well represented. And again, Georgia, they got to bye. They're sitting there waiting. But honestly, I could see, I mean, obviously, one SEC team is going to lose, either Oklahoma or Alabama. But 3 moving on to the next weekend would not surprise me, or the next round would not surprise me at all. Not one bit. From the world of hoops in the SEC, we haven't gotten that far yet this year, have we? Too busy focusing on football. The SEC basketball-wise, tonight Texas hosts Southern. Longhorns are 6-3. That's the only SEC game tonight. Yesterday, Alabama whooped UT San Antonio 97-55. LSU, they got, you want to talk about getting curb stomped. Texas Tech, 19th ranked Red Raiders, easily over LSU 82-58. Matt McMahon, seats hot in Baton Rouge. Missouri lost by 20 to Kansas in Lawrence, 80-60. Mississippi State got beat by San Francisco. Mississippi State's struggling so far this year at 4-5. And Texas A&M lost by 13 against SMU. A&M now 7-3, SMU 9-1. So to check around the SEC with hoops and also the college football playoff. Terry Ford, glad you could hang out with us. We do your drive around the SEC. Do not forget tomorrow, Elijah and Preston 4-6 at Guthrie's new location, 339 Generations Way, right next to Valvoline. Elijah and Preston, Xavier Leggett will be there, by the way, as well. Xavier Leggett will be there for the grand opening. Elijah, Preston, maybe we can get old Xavier in there too. A chicken finger eating contest tomorrow from 4 to 6. The chicken tenders supposed to be fantastic. Again, that's tomorrow. Grand opening, Guthrie's new location, 339 Generations Way, right next to Valvoline. And go watch, Elijah and Preston stuff their face until they pass out. I'm telling you, I know Preston because he's an ex-football player. You think, well, Preston's got the eating advantage over Elijah. Oh, no. Elijah can pack away some food. So that is tomorrow, 4 to 6. We'll be hearing from those guys at Guthrie's. Again, 339 Generations Way. There'll be giveaways, all sorts of good stuff. Stop in, say hey to Elijah, Preston, and Xavier Leggett. That is tomorrow from 4 to 6. And like I said, we'll be hearing from them on the post-game show a couple times tomorrow as well. All right, we'll come back in here. Jay is not here to fight the internet, but we will look at some of the wagering around the world of sports, starting with Monday Night Football tonight. That is next here on the post-game show as we wrap it up on a Monday right here on 107.5 The Game and the Game Network. So we'll do a little Jay versus the Internet without Jay. Tonight in the NFL, Eagles, at the Chargers, even though really the LA Chargers, they really don't have a home field advantage because no one in LA cares about the Chargers. But so just for fun, the Chargers are at home. The Eagles are 2.5-point favorites. The Eagles have been scuffling, man. Make no mistake, the offenses, there have been a problem. Nick Sirianni, the head coach, is stepping in now. Eagles have lost 2 straight. Now, after this Raiders game, they get the Commanders. After this Chargers game, they get the Raiders and the Commanders. That should be 2 wins. Then the Bills and the Commanders. So, at worst, you can see an 11-win Eagle team. Tonight, going into L.A., the Eagles this year, on the road, have won at Kansas City, at Tampa Bay, at Minnesota, at Green Bay. They did lose on the road to Dallas when they blew a big lead. And they lost to the Giants somehow in New Jersey at Jimmy Hoffa Stadium. I think the Eagles go and they beat the Chargers because Eagles really, look, both teams have to win. They're both fighting for playoff spots. I just think the Eagles have a little bit more urgency right now than the Chargers. Chargers have won 4 out of 5. But if you look at this schedule coming up for the Chargers, after they play this home game against the Eagles, they have to go to Kansas City, go to Dallas, and they get the red-hot Texans, and then they get the number 1 seed right now in the AFC, the Broncos. This is not an easy schedule. There are no gimmies here. The Chargers, it's wow when you look at the schedule. I think right now the Eagles are the more desperate team, but the Chargers' schedule is a bear. Justin Herbert's got the hand injury, now his non-throwing hand. I just think the Eagles go in and win. Look, the offense is broke. You got a new offensive coordinator, and it hasn't worked. You got all these former player analyst guys screaming about how bad this Eagle offense is. They don't do any motion. They don't attack certain parts of the field. This offense with all these really good players is just broken right now, or partly broken. They don't run the ball like this. It's just a mess. The offensive line's had injuries. I think the Eagles go to L.A. and win. And plus, it's not the greatest home field advantage in the history of football. Because, again, a lot of people in L.A. don't even know the Chargers are there. Just to be honest. Now, to give the Chargers credit, they lost at home to the Colts and the Commanders. So they have lost 2, but they've won more than they've lost at home, to be fair. I think the Eagles, they need this W more. I think they'll pull off a win. And look, really quick in the NFL, and we really haven't yipped hardly in the NFL today because we've been so focused on Kendall Briles and the college football playoff. If you look at the playoff picture in the AFC, right now the Chargers are in as a 6 seed, but the Texans and the Colts are right. The Texans and the Colts are 8 and 5, so they're hanging in there as well. And if you're the Chargers and you lose, you have lost the tiebreaker to the Colts. So you got to keep winning, and your schedule's a bear. It really is. The Eagles, of course, are sitting nice. They're 8 and 4, leading the NFC East, and they should get 10 or 11 wins, and they should win the division. They should. Even with this offense that can't get out of its own way, they should win that division. Right now, they're sitting in the 3 hole. And their schedule compared to the Chargers is nothing. So the Eagles are probably sitting better long-term than the Chargers. But tonight I just feel like the Eagles are more of a sense of desperation because who won the Super Bowl last year? Oh, yeah, that's right, the Eagles. So it'll be a fun game to watch tonight. We'll see which direction it goes. But I'll take the Eagles and give the Chargers a 2.5 at home. Over-under is 41.5. I feel like this has under written all over it for some reason. And obviously, Justin Herbert, look, it's not your throwing hand, but still you got to use both hands as a quarterback. And we'll see how much it bothers Justin Herbert. If he plays. So, if I don't see his game time availability since we're sitting here yapping. See what the old internet says about Justin Herbert. Questionable tonight is Herbert. I think he plays. Now, I just saw it. He is playing tonight, despite undergoing surgery on his injured hand. So I think the Eagles will win. I think it's an under game, and I think the Eagles win and give the Chargers that 2.5. So I feel on that whole thing. All right, what's going on this week? No men's basketball or women's basketball until the weekend. We do have Carolina calls on Thursday with Lamont Paris and Derek Scott. 7 p.m. on 107.5 The Game here in Columbia, and also our affiliate 100.3 The Game in Myrtle Beach. Then on the weekend, 6:30 pregame, 7 o'clock tip. The men will face the Citadel. And the women, 3 o'clock pregame, 3:30 tip against Penn State on Sunday. That's a breakdown there. And, of course, we have Monday Night Football tonight starting at 7 with the Chargers and the Eagles. And then we'll have Thursday Night Football as well, like we do every Thursday night during football season. So that's where we're at. We're all caught up on everything. Obviously, we have Guthrie's, our remote tomorrow with Elijah and Preston at their new location, 339 Generations Way, right next to Valvoline. Xavier Leggett will be there. And Elijah and Preston, and maybe we'll get Xavier into it too, a chicken tender eating contest. Appreciate you hanging out with us today. Jay will be back with us on Wednesday. We'll get going again tomorrow starting at 3 here on The Game.